Hi everyone, my name is Sophie Fladgate and I am doing my project on a community composting station. I live in Alexandria, Sydney, and my proposed location would be in Alexandria, Sydney. Okay, so I just wanted to cover what communal composting is. So composting itself is the transformation of raw organic materials into compost. So this happens by a natural process driven by microorganisms like bacteria and fungi, which break down the organic material as food source. So communal composting is an environmental initiative, and this involves communities to close the loop on organics recovery. So eliminating the need for transport for food to and from supermarkets, and then transport on the other end as well to landfills. So making sure that the food grown in the gardens is then brought back and composted, and kind of as the cycle goes. So it is larger scale communal composting than household composting, but it is smaller than commercial composting. So kind of a really happy in between, and you get the benefit of creating brand new relationships as well. So why a community composting station? Because ideally I'd like to reduce the volume of food waste sent to landfills. So staggeringly, 35% of waste in Australian bins is food waste, and that can come from people cooking too much and forgetting about it in the back of the fridge. But this is kind of a bit of a scary figure when you realize how easy it is to actually compost your own food waste. And the government also estimates that food waste costs the Australian economy $20 billion a year. So that's an insane amount. Taking into account transport costs, supermarket management costs, processing costs on, the supermarket's end and after when it's sent to landfill. But these funds really could be used a lot better elsewhere. So the aim would definitely be to kind of reduce that figure drastically. And 8% of greenhouse gas emissions are caused by food waste. So I think when people believe that their organics are compostable, so it doesn't matter if you throw them in the bin, it actually does, because the way that they are sent to landfill wrapped in plastic, often without adequate access to oxygen and kind of correct gas balance and things like that, the composting process is severely delayed. And also what that means is because it's composted, or because it's next to other food scraps that aren't usually compost, meat, metals, feces, all that kind of thing, it can, and it does emit really large amounts of methane gas, which contributes to that percentage. Yeah, so this project is really to increase awareness about the consequences of improperly disposing of your food, and making sure that people are educated and that they feel like they know how to reduce their food waste, whether that's, setting a grocery list to prep your meals in advance so you know exactly what you're buying and you don't buy anything else, or just trying to really make sure that you eat out your fridge at the end of each week. But compost really enhances soil health, and it supports local food production in the form of a garden, and also conserves the natural ecology. So rather than just taking from the ground, taking from the soil, you are sort of putting it back in to make sure that you're supporting the nutrient balance. So the people are the key to this community composting. The community, the volunteers who make it run, hopefully the brain power behind this all, but really important to establish dedicated roles and responsibilities of the volunteers, of the community itself, just to make sure that everyone knows what their role is and where they fit into the bigger picture, and to make sure that operations run smoothly. So to do this as well, clear and concise training and induction processes. So making sure that people who are inducted as new caretakers know what their job is, how to do their job correctly, and how to teach the community how to actively participate. So in order to engage the community, I would really like to do workshops, and maybe that can also cross over into facilitating trainings for new people who want to join. So whether they're part of the community or kind of outside of the community and they're doing a volunteer day, then facilitating trainings would be a really good way to kind of induct people in as new recruits. And then an obvious one is partnerships. So partnerships with education providers, volunteer organizations, large corporations. I know my corporation or my job has the ability to do a volunteer day once or twice a year. So this would be an awesome opportunity to approach them and say, would you like to have a couple people to come in and work on the garden and share their composting knowledge with the rest of the company. So community composting wouldn't be the same without community composting systems. So just put together a couple of slides here, but the dome bin on the left is really the cheapest and simplest composting bin to use. All you have to do is just put it on the ground, then you add your organics in, add your browns, add your greens, and then you're done. It's really easy to remove the compost when it's done because you just lift the top off, or you kind of push it to the side, and then the compost can be, all on the ground there. And it's really easy to transport for the same reason. You just pick it up and take it to the new location. But the negatives of this, because of that open bottom, leachates will drain from the bottom. So it is best used on permeable surfaces, grass, garden beds, things like that. And because of that, pests may be able to kind of burrow their way underneath. So just making sure that there's a little bit of mesh around the outside, you've kept the vermins at bay some other way. The aero bin. This can process a large volume of materials, and it does have this built-in aeration lung. So the manufacturer claims that with correct materials, that it doesn't require turning. So it just self-aerates, and there is a moisture recirculation system within there as well, and it fosters kind of that biomass breakdown with high temperatures and a good gas balance. Insulated bin walls to help with that temperature, and no leachates can leak from the base because it's closed off. But composts may not compost uniformly. So in kind of the case of this, it's not doing its job correctly, and the aeration system being a little bit delicate and fiddly may break, may be damaged if the compost is turned, and it can become clogged and things like that as well. And always a con, they're a little bit more expensive. Composting systems part 2. So the positives for the tumbling composter there on the left is that it's sleek, it's beautiful. No leachates can leak as it's sealed, and it is less likely to attract pests as it's higher off the ground, and easier to turn. Negatives. Limited capacity, it's a bit more expensive, and it can be difficult to turn due to the weight. So once it gets full, it's heavy, so you might need a buddy to turn it around for you. But once it's full, you just seal it until the compost is ready to use. So maybe on a larger scale, you're going to need a few of these in your community composting station. But on the right there, the DIY composting bin is what we're going to use. So these are perfect because it's fully scalable. It's cost efficient, really basic materials, nothing too fancy, and can be fully tailored to your site. And the materials can be reused, so no plastics and things like that. But the negatives are that it needs to be robust and it needs to be hard wearing, and therefore you may need to engage a local builder to help you do that, unless you're, a master on the trades. So managing the site. There's a little sign there on the right. I really liked it. I thought it was really clear for people coming in and composting their waste. But yeah, clear signage is key. And following on to that, ensuring correct aeration and nitrogen and carbon balance as well. So obviously oxygen and water with that, but just making sure that people are putting the correct amount of greens and the correct amount of browns. So greens equal nitrogen and the browns equal the carbon. So 1-to-2 ratio. And important for any project to show that you've been successful and really made an impact on diverting food waste from landfills, it's important to record information. So how many people involved, how much food stock was processed, compost produced, and then fresh produce shared as well. And then always pest control in a natural way. And then fundings and partnerships. So to keep this going, you will need to find funding, whether it's from the local community or partnerships, with local corporations and organizations that maybe contribute to have that education piece as part of their, office training. But yeah, important to keep it going financially. And then the finished compost. So very obvious here. I think that's a beautiful garden in the photo, but it is used in the community garden, used to grow more nutrient-dense food, improves the soil health and therefore the longevity of gardens, the garden's reproductive ability. So when you plant and don't put the nutrients back into the soil, vegetables and fruits and things can have a really hard time growing. So the compost is going to be really helpful in making it a really efficient growing soil. And also people can take it home for their compost for home gardens. And that might be a really cool way to make people feel like they are really contributing and have something to kind of take away. So, and it also encourages people to grow as much food as they can at home, whether it's just some kale or some herbs and things like that on their veranda. Then it's a really good way to encourage, closing that loop even tighter. So that is my finished presentation. I hope you enjoyed. I love listening to everyone else's, so I'll listen to the remainder now. Thanks, bye.